My guest this week is a DJ and producer spearheading the UKG and UK-based movement. He's held a residency at the prestigious Rinse FM, played 2 UK tours around the country, performed at the likes of Outlook Festival, SW4, Keep Hush and Warehouse Project. It's Sammy Virji. Good evening, mate. How are you?
I don't know why I did that. Yeah, I'm all right, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, man. I'm very well. Full disclosure, it's mid-January at the moment. I'm doing dry January.
I am as well. Yeah.
How are you finding it?
All right. I've been to the pub 3 times and just had a pint of orange juice.
You're a bigger man
than
than me.
Well. It's going well.
That's sick. I've not actually put myself in that situation where I'm having that temptation there. So for you to go to the pub 3 times and be like, that's right. Was it? What
it
was
is
it?
Tough sometimes, but
was it with the boys or was it like
was
there an event?
Yeah, just meet a couple of mates, but
and nobody's like peer pressuring you and being like, have a drink.
Well, he did. Last night he got me a pint and I just said, nah.
Still turn it down. Good lad. Good lad.
Yeah.
That's
I'm going to stick to it. What I'm going to find difficult though is doing gigs without drinking because I think I've only done it once ever.
Yeah.
So I'll see how that goes. But
yeah, if you've, full disclosure, what we were chatting about before this, we had Kajama on the podcast before, and he was mentioning about how he plays now just full stone cold sober
he does,
all the time
because he drives over as well.
Yeah,
he?
That was the big thing. That was a big revelation that I didn't really know too many DJs. Number one, I don't know too many DJs that DJ just sober, like you said. Most people, when they start learning how to DJ or performing live or stuff like that, have a couple of drinks, get a little bit of that liquid courage in there, and then you sort of, if you're mixing together. But have you ever had any sort of like nightmare situations whilst playing drunk?
Nothing too bad. Just like seeing videos the next day of like me getting on the mic.
One of those ones.
Just like, so cringy.
The MC in the bar. It
was Leeds just before Christmas. I was playing Leeds and it was like a kind of boiler room setting, like everyone was around.
Yeah.
And then I was actually, I don't know, I didn't feel that drunk then, but I woke up the next day, I was like, fucking hell, like I actually drank quite a lot.
Yeah.
And then I just see a video of me just going Sue into the mic. I done it. I did it so many times. I did it so many times as well.
Oh, that's funny. Right. Why have I not seen any of this? Oh, that would be sick.
I did upload a little clip of it to Instagram because it was funny, but
that's original. I thought you were going to say like you get a little bit of like you get a drink in there and you start spitting some bars, or you're giving the old like oggy, or like there it is.
Nah, mate. I really hope I never do that.
With the Ronaldo chants at the rave. Do you know what? I've never heard that yet. I might be setting a trend. That could be setting a trend going forward.
There were quite a few at Warehouse Project actually. I thought people were booing me. I just kept hearing boo. I actually realized. Sue? Yeah, they were saying Sue because before I jumped on the decks, I fucking did it. I did a Sue for no reason.
My man likes football. My man absolutely likes football before the set. I suppose it gets like football crowds have a big energy to them, don't they? So if you're transferring that energy into the rave, it's only going to be good.
Yeah.
It's only going to be good.
It is a funny celebration,
That is I'm going to go look for videos now after this recording, so I'm going to have to see it. I'm going to have to see it. That'll be jokes. Yeah. So for people that are listening, or for people that are watching, if anyone's watching it on YouTube as well, that might not have sort of seen you play before, or might not have like listened to your tracks before. It's probably a difficult thing to do. But what would you class yourself as there? As I said in the opening, I'd sort of said like UKG or UK bass. Would you sort of put yourself into one genre, or for people listening that might not have listened to your music before, would you sort of like spread it out and sort of like keep yourself quite open minded?
Yeah. I think the one thing that remains consistent in my tunes is like swingy drums, and that comes from it. That's like influenced by garage massively, but then it's I make bassy stuff as well. So it's kind of a mixture of the two. Sometimes it'll be melodic, sometimes it'll be quite bassy. But I make other stuff as well. I've been making all sorts like housey stuff, dubstep or whatever.
Yeah, so you're not going to you wouldn't pigeonhole yourself into sort of saying, like, I just strictly make this type of music, or I strictly make that type of music out there.
Yeah, 100%.
Where does sort of like what was sort of like your earliest influences or earliest interactions with like live music or like producing music? Like, where do you sort of get your inspiration from?
My dad's a musician, so since I can remember, I've just been piano, guitar. I used to be obsessed with guitar. I used to play all the time. And then, but one thing I noticed was I never like had lessons. If I wanted to learn a tune, I'd go and listen to the tune and then work it out, and then I'd also make my own stuff up. Obviously, it was dead because I was 6, but still, like at that age, get like developing an ear for melody and like making my own stuff, and that's always what I've done.
When you were 6, you could listen to a tune and work out
Maybe
sort of what the chords were.
Maybe not when I was 6, but I don't know. No, maybe a bit older.
Yeah,
you know, like maybe like 10 or something. But I remember I used to. Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be anything complicated. It wouldn't be like any jazz chords or anything like that. But yeah, it's good.
Interesting. Noel Gallagher did that to like obviously Noel Gallagher from Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds and Oasis and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He broke his ankle at one point and he was signed off work for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And that's the first time he picked up a guitar, and he was listening to like Joy Division. Was listening to Joy Division in Manchester, and was literally like copying the bass, like you've just said there, listening to it and like playing along and like trying to work out the bass and stuff like that. So it's interesting that you went in from there. And then, like you said, so your dad's a musician as well.
Yeah.
And then, so were you having like a lot of music around the house, like when you were younger, and he was like trying to sort of push music onto you, but like introduce you?
It wasn't really that because I didn't live with him, but when he'd come round, like we had a piano, so I think it's just having him there as a musician, like made me want to be a musician, I guess.
So you're producing around sort of like 2009, early sort of like instrumentals, listening to dubsteppy bits, listening to early grime bits. And then how does it sort of transition into, number one, sort of like what was the first sort of DJ gig and DJ set and like first decks and stuff like that you picked up? And then number two, how did you sort of move more into that sort of garagey sound then?
So when I was about, I think, 13, 14, and I started doing music production more and more, I started to like sort of EDM-y stuff. Not what we know of it now, but back then. And then I started looking at videos of like Tomorrowland and stuff like that. Started becoming obsessed.
Of course, those mad stages, like seeing the massive like. Do you remember there was like a stage with like a face that was like a tree, that lit up and stuff like that as well? Yeah.
So what I used to do with all my music, even though I didn't have decks or anything, I used to put it in keys, organize it in folders.
That's interesting.
And then I used to make mixes, but I didn't have decks, so it would be a matter of like dragging and dropping the tunes into Logic. I wouldn't be able to change the BPM, so the transitions would be really rough, but then they'd be in key. Yeah. And actually sounded all right.
And so it's interesting actually you say there about like doing your early mixes on programs, like because it probably wasn't until I was a little bit later that I realized that you could mix like mixes on like music production programs. I don't know if you ever listened to it when you were younger, but it's one of the first things that I got introduced to with like mixing and DJing and music was Annie Mac's mini mix on BBC Radio 1.
Yeah, that's what I used to do. I used to do mini mixes.
Yeah, so like I remember like literally being like 9 or like 8 or like and listening to like I think like Shawnee B was one of the first ones I remember listening to. Clips.
I remember one back in the day. I remember a DJ Snake one that I used to listen to.
Yeah. There was a DJ. I think that was slightly late. That must have been about like 2011ish, I reckon. But I remember thinking like before I had the knowledge of like how they were doing this, thinking like how many turntables has this artist or DJ like got going on the go at the moment? How many CDJs have they got plugged in? Because you would hear.
I used to think that as well.
Yeah, like you had like Zinc and you had a load of these other people that would do like the most insane mixes really, really quick. And I was thinking like this, like what's going on? Like the only person that I know that can sort of mix like that quickly in modern times would be like AMC. Andy C, or if you've ever seen Jag Skills like mix multi-genres like all together like crazy on his like Serato vinyl decks as well. But I do remember being like 9 and thinking like this is wizardry, like what is going on here? There's like people mixing so many tunes together and different genres. So it's interesting that you were picking that up straight away from like Logic and basically like doing your own mini mixes direct on the program. So when you were doing your first sets, like we picked up your Mix Track Pro 2, you're doing sets at school, obviously popular, getting the DJ sets in and getting them able to like play out and stuff like that. What were some of the what were sort of some of the earliest memories that you've got at like these sets, or like what was it that you thought like, you know what, actually, I'm sort of doing all right here, like I'm getting a good crowd reaction, like there's something going on here?
When I went to uni, when I got a proper DJ set. I don't know. I felt that's when I started to realise like, it's kind of going well.
Yeah. What were you doing at uni?
What was I studying?
Yeah.
Biology.
Biology. Okay. Which
Yeah.
university did you go to?
Newcastle.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sick.
I was.
So Newcastle, you've got obviously Digital up there as a nightclub. You got a couple of the other. What else is sort of big up in nightclub? You got
So
Digital.
like my second home, I'd say, is World Headquarters, which is like it's like a nice dark club, and yeah, that's a good place. And there's Cosmic as well.
Yeah, that was
which
it.
is wicked, yeah.
Biology as well. So there's no sort of
yeah,
there's no sort of like music production.
My
or
plan
sort of
my plan was do biology and then do a postgrad in medicine.
Nice.
And I'm just so glad I didn't do that because
I mean,
I never really wanted to do that. I've always been like secretly deep down, I've always wanted to do music.
Yeah. And did you how, just out of interest then, why did you not go down the music route at university?
I was probably the bottom of my class. I didn't care about anything I was being taught, and I was DJing like 4 or 5 times a week.
Okay.
It was me and Yemi, who's also a garage producer. So we started out DJing together, and then as like a secondary job. Obviously, it was a bit slow at first, but then I'd say like towards the end of first year, we were playing all the time, and getting paid for it, like a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And I just used to, going out every night. Like, I'm not going to get up for my 9 a.m.s, and I just didn't like the course either. I thought it was really boring and just uninteresting.
And so thankfully, obviously, like you said, you're honing your craft, managing to get out, get into clubs, get into venues, and getting out there, getting your name out there as well. Obviously, building up the socials, I'm assuming, as well at the same time.
I didn't get Instagram for a long time. I only got Instagram like in my third year.
Okay.
Yeah, I never actually finished biology. I actually dropped out in third year.
Okay.
To go and do music.
Fantastic. And was that like, you mean when you say go and do music, do you mean like you were just sort of like, right, I've got a bit of ground here now that I can sort of produce and I can also play out. I'm getting enough money to sort of have like generate like enough income to be able to like sustain this, really.
Yeah, what it was when my production started getting noticed, and then I did start getting bookings in like Sheffield and places like that, and then before I knew it, it was kind of like every weekend I was getting a booking, and I was like, I can either do this, and I wouldn't have been able to do biology or that, and I was like, realistically, this is what I want to do, and it's always what I've wanted to do, so I just dropped it basically.
What was the tipping point for you to drop out of uni? Was it like you suddenly had like 6 months worth of like of bookings like booked up, and you were like, you know what, I can bin this off, or was like were you unhappy at uni and you were suddenly this is making me happy?
I was unhappy at uni, yeah. And it was just such an obvious choice, and I do have student loan to pay back, but it was completely worth it because I got all of the DJ experience and I met loads of people, and so it was 100% worth it.
And then talking of obviously, like you said, you got a lot of bookings coming in. You've had a lot of bookings. We've seen you mentioned in the intro, all of the festivals, all the events, all the brands and stuff you played for, and then recently announced your XOYO debut down in London coming up soon.
Yeah,
how's that one come around?
It's just it's DJ Zinc's residency, so it's good that he got me on.
Yeah, what do you think? Have you been to XOYO before?
Nah, never been.
You're not? Oh, it's a good club. It is a good club. I've been down there a couple of times myself for Andy C's residency when he had it there. It's like it's like a good mid-sized club. It's not massive like we were talking about before there. Like it's not warehouse project levels, but I feel like sometimes, like, what are your thoughts on? I know well, it's up to you if you answer this or not. What are your thoughts on sort of? Do you prefer massive, big, huge venues like sort of warehouse project, your print works, your stuff like that, or do you prefer the more intimate sort of shows?
Definitely the more intimate show.
Yeah, go on. Why?
Definitely, because you can look people in the eye, and you don't give them the option to not have a good time. Like you have a good time. Like, do you know what I mean? Whereas if it's a massive show, then it's like you feel a bit isolated.
You feel disconnected from the audience.
Disconnected. Yeah. That's it.
I was going to bring up as well. You were very positive and smiley and energetic performer is what I would say. There's a video we've had one before, and I've fuck knows how many times I've watched it because it literally gets me so gassed. It's the video that Isaac took of you at Peer Jam where you've just dropped the remix of
the hip hop drum bass.
Yeah, the Dead Prez remix.
Yeah.
And you are so happy and so energy, and you can hear someone in the back. I'm assuming it's Isaac go, wheel it. And I've watched you keep hush a lot of sets and stuff as well. You are a smiley individual, high energy, and I feel like you said, if you've got a smaller venue and a smaller club, the audience will feed off of that energy, and obviously
that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
There's nothing worse.
But I've got to say, like a big festival show, and if everyone is really up for it, that is also, I mean, also nothing can beat that as well. But yeah, the small intimate ones are just really good, I think.
I feel like there's nothing worse than when it's nothing worse. Like I know some people purposely are like super serious, like that probably like gonna like be like I can't be too vibey or stuff like that. But like you said, if they see the DJ or the artist or that getting gassed themselves, like getting high energy, big smiles, and like jumping around and stuff, there's no way they're gonna stand still like and just be like, well, I'm not moving. Like they definitely feed off of whatever you are.
I feed off them. So like.
Yeah. Just sometimes
there is a dead crowd, and I'll just be there like, just really like not into it. But usually I am, because usually the crowd's good. But that Peer Jam one was a good learning thing for me, because I was doing an hour and a half set, playing before Holy Goof and then after drum and bass to a crowd who no one knew who I was. So I started playing, 130, like UK garage or whatever I was playing, and I could see some guy in the crowd do this to me, like
because they'd just been listening to drum and bass, and you're bringing it back down.
I was getting, it was nasty, and I'm a sensitive boy, right?
Oh,
so it really like cut deep, and I was like, oh no, what do I do? Yeah. What do I do? And then I built the crowd up.
Yeah.
And I was able to get myself out of it. And then that's, I think, why I was so gassed in that video.
That was that final release.
Turn it around.
Like, yes. Do you know what? That makes that video so much better now, mate, as well. I was gassed off of it anyway. But knowing that now behind it and knowing there's a bit of a story. Another thing that I was going to touch on as well, because you're a very unique person to have on the podcasts. You've got an accolade to your name, which is very, very rare for artists, I feel like. Especially, I would say, electronic artists even more so. So one of the few people that can say that they've got their music on FIFA.
Oh yeah,
I mean, come on.
It's kind of a mad story. It's well, you gotta ask me how did it get on there? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. And I wasn't told. I looked at the list of tracks. I was like, oh cool, Baklava's on there. Oh, Aluna is on there. Yeah. Oh, I did a remix for Aluna, but it just said Aluna, and then I get a message from someone saying, "Oh, your tune's on FIFA." And I was like, "No, it's not, mate." He's like, "No, it is." I looked at the track list carefully, and it was like Body Pump, Aluna. It's like Sammy Virji remix. I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it." And the reason I wasn't told was because I'd signed the publishing over when I did the remix.
Right. Okay.
So it was the original label that owned it, so they can basically do whatever they want with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just crazy.
That is, you've got to be very gassed. I mean, I'm assuming you play FIFA.
I do play FIFA. I've had to put my PlayStation away because I need to, I just get too angry when I play FIFA.
Oh really?
Honestly.
One of those ones.
I've had to put it away. Like, it's dry Jan, do some music, put my PlayStation away.
That's very sensible of you, mate. Do you feel like you get a little if you've been playing? Do you feel like you get a little boost, little thing if you're playing and your tune comes on and it's
Yeah,
on the game? Do you feel like you're like, right, come on, let's get this
yeah,
in
I
there,
do.
let's get this sorted?
I do. It gets me every time I hear it. I'm like, this is crazy.
So we were going to touch on as well as FIFA. You've got your music and films as well.
Yeah,
Corrupt FM. People just do
Yeah.
nothing. How did that come about?
Again, I don't know.
Someone's not informing you about this.
Nah, I don't know anything. I don't know anything. They wanted the tune of the film, so they messaged the people that
the
deal
people.
with that.
Are we talking your management? Or are we talking sort of like your
my management, my distribution?
Yeah.
So it was on Kiwi Records, so the people that do the distribution for Kiwi.
So for people that aren't aware, that's Conductor's label, isn't it? Conductor, the UK garage artist.
Yeah.
Like I said, another person that's sort of spearheading the UKG movement and spearheading like the new wave of like UKG movement. So sorry, it came out on his label.
Yeah, and basically they were like, oh, they want the tune for the film. I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then I realised because the tune's got a sample in, so we needed to message that the sample's from like a flute playing at the beginning of a rock tune. It's Whip It for those who don't know. So I went to the premiere, the Corrupt FM premiere.
Did you get invited because your tune was on the film?
Yeah. Well, I think Conductor sort of invited me as well because he's sort of in that London crew and sort of knows all these famous people. But mate, I was there, and then someone was like, "Oh yeah, Rio Ferdinand's standing behind you." I was like, "Nah, he isn't." It's like, "Yeah, he is." Like Rio Ferdinand was literally right there. Dizzy Rascal in the other corner.
Dizzy was there as well,
mate. All these people. I just felt so out of place. I was like, what am I doing here? Yeah. Like,
oh, mate.
But, it was me and my girlfriend was just like, what are we doing here?
That's sick, though.
It was sick. And the tune was like, it's like the climax of the film. So it was pretty...
Where is it? I've seen the film, but I've only seen it once, so I can't really remember
It's right at the end. Pretty much right at the end when
the karaoke,
including everything. Yeah.
That's it. Right, okay, so anyone listening... it's right at the end of the film when they're in the karaoke room. I don't want to give too much away and stuff like that, but we're all having a party and that's sick. So like you said there again, a tune that was on a big massive piece of media that you were like, I didn't know this until the time, but it's good stuff, mate. It's incredible. What sort of not that you could, I suppose, choose, but like what if you could choose, would you like your music to be featured in or on? We're talking like what? I suppose the only way you can maybe go from that would be like an advert, like a TV
that would be
advert or
cool.
something.
Actually, yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
An advert would be cool. Maybe like a TV theme or something. Like
a TV theme, what, for a show? That's even bigger.
That'd be pretty cool.
Bigger. The distribution rights for that, you'd be going mad. You'd be getting that mad. That PRS would be coming in thick and fast. I want to talk about your branding, mate, because you've got quite a distinctive branding, I'd say, sort of like on socials, sort of the logo and stuff like that. How does that sort of come around? Like, how do you sort of decide on branding? Like, for example, like I think one of the first times that I thought like, oh, this is Sammy Virji's branding was like your 10K mix. I think that was like when you did
like the cartoon stuff.
Yeah, sort of like the bubble font, sort of like the cartoony type style font like that.
So it's my mate Liam who I used to live with. He just does a lot of art and he does artwork and stuff. So I just said, do you want to do some stuff for me? And then just sort of kept doing that because I do love that sort of fun style, I guess.
I think it complements your, like I said, it complements your energy when you're playing and it complements your sound as well. It all fits very well together where you are. I've got that high energy, fun, sort of like positive, like you said, the bouncy drums, the UKG style of stuff. It complements it and brings it all together, to be honest.
Thank you.
That's right. That's right. No worries. Good design ideas. That's what it is. But besides from the point that you said earlier about the guy that gave you the stop playing this in the rave type thing, is there any other section of like a rave or an event that sticks out on your mind? It could be positive, could be negative, but just something that you'll think like, I always remember this, or like this one, I won't ever forget this type of thing. Like it could be something that was like great, or it could be something that you were like, oh fuck.
I've got a few.
Go on.
I've got a good like set moment, and that is the side to side. What me and my mate Will, Cunning MC, when I made that Indiana Jones thing, we were talking about that before because you got a video of it in Amsterdam.
Yeah, so that was we were chatting before the podcast record. So the first time I met Sammy was backstage at a spring break festival in Amsterdam, and I was shooting an after movie for Legoland. Actually, I was shooting it for Junior, who's been on the podcast before, and it's sort of like the only not dance routine. I don't want to say dance routine, but like
it was like a thing.
It sort of was, yeah.
Like,
it sort of was.
Right, dude,
I'll see if I've got the video. If I've got the video, I'll put it on the YouTube video here.
The one at Boomtown was unbelievable, and I think it's the best crowd I've ever seen.
So how many people do you think were sort of like doing this at once?
Maybe what was special about it was literally everyone. Like usually when you do it, it's like the front few, but it was literally everyone. It must have been, I don't know, maybe 1,000, maybe a bit less, 600 or something.
Yeah.
But that was pretty memorable. And then another memorable moment was one of those just soul destroying things. I was at a gig and I was playing after TS7, big bassline guy, and I come on and my music's not quite as hype as that, so crowd was already kind of difficult. And Will, Cunning MC, was doing the MCing, and it got to I was playing before Aitch as well.
Okay.
And I kind of soon realised that the whole crowd there was
there to see
Aitch, and so everything I was playing was just like it's like bass line, and it's just like they just weren't having any of it. But I was playing Indiana Jones, and I was like, I really hope Will doesn't get the crowd to do the side to side thing. And then he goes, right, when I want
oh no,
right, when I want everyone to go this way, and then he does his thing, and I thought I can't leave him there on his own. So I was like, right, I'm gonna throw myself in this. So I got up on stage with him to go side to side, and we did it. Oh mate,
no one.
It's
just you two on the front of the stage. Like he was obviously like trying to get the crowd to do like go left, right, left, right.
Yeah. It was the most
embarrassing. Bring him on.
Oh man, it was the most embarrassing thing, and I don't think I'll ever forget that.
Is that one of those things where you're like laying there in bed at night and just before you're about to go to sleep, your brain just is like, do you remember the time you did that? And it's like,
mate.
No, fuck. Is there any video? I mean, I suppose there's
no
after movie, there's no video footage.
It was awful.
I mean, fair play to you, mate. Number one, fair play for you to for sticking up for Will as well and being like, "Nah, you know what? We're in this together. We're in this together. Yeah. I ain't letting my boy do it by himself."
Well, I thought that by me getting on stage, I was like gassing myself. I was like, "Oh yeah, the crowd must be gassed as well." And then it was just so.
Did you hang around afterwards, or did you have to go take yourself off and be like?
I was really upset.
Leave this venue. Yeah,
I was really
upset.
If
you were sensitive, like you said about if you were sensitive about the guy in the crowds at Pier Jam, then I can imagine, mate, that must have been a difficult time for you.
Yeah,
It must have been a difficult time. But no, there's three examples there that are all very different examples. Because I suppose then the two examples that you gave about sort of slightly negative experiences that you've had at the rave were the order in which music and sort of like bookings were. So like for example at Pier Jam, you were playing after drum and bass, then went back down to 130 BPM and had to build it up, and that's when the crowd was sort of like there. And then for example there you were playing before Aitch, and it was like, well fuck, they're all here to see Aitch type thing, so I haven't got any I haven't got any UK hip hop or drill or anything like that, so that's not in my set, so that's not going to be the vibe. What do you think? Do you think, obviously I'm assuming you'll probably say really important, but do you think that it will impact how a rave works, or do you think an event will be impacted by sort of like the order of artists and like the order of like genres? Because normally sometimes you think like, okay, it's quite rare that you get unless it's a festival or maybe a New Year's Eve thing. It's quite rare that you will get multi-genre to the point of where you're like you said there, like yourself, like UKG, a little bit of bass, and then going into like hip hop and drill and stuff like that. That's like quite a big difference. Like, do you think that it should go? It might sound weird. Do you think it should go in ascending order of BPM, sort of styling and like harshness and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it should. I think it's really important to how good a night is going to be, how successful a night is going to be. Um, and I used to be me and Yemi used to be warm up DJs. Like there is an art to it, and it's the hardest thing to do. And that like there is a special way of doing it, of doing a really good set without you can shell a set without with whilst being calmer. You know, like warming up. I think I did Flavor D and warmed up for her, but was playing like garagey ones, but kind of sing-alongs, and then set the level. She's the headliner. She headlines, and then whoever's on after that might be drum and bass or something. I think that's a smooth
transition. Like you
transition.
said, I suppose from a couple of perspectives. Number one, you don't want to piss off the headliner necessarily by, like, I spoke to a couple of people here before, playing their tracks or going, like you said, like going way too hard, way too early. So the crowd is like amped up, and then the headliner's coming on thinking, you've just fucking, number one, you've used all my tracks. Number two, like you've gone way too hard at the start.
There is an argument, like the headliner's a headliner and you have your chance. Like you should be allowed to shell if you want to. And I get that argument as well. But what I'm saying is you can shell, but also be respectful. Even when I'm headlining, I will respect the DJ after me. I will play. I'll try and bring it down to garage when I finish.
Yeah.
So they can then take it up from there.
Are you a fan of throwing a sort of left field track into your sets at all?
A left field?
Yeah, sort of like something that doesn't really fit the bill at all. Like maybe finishing on, say, if you weren't passing across, like
how Scream played.
Scream would throw in like Arctic Monkeys at the end or something like that, or like other sort of acts would, for example.
Yeah, I've done not that much, but yeah, definitely. I'm definitely down for that. I do like clubby tunes. Like I played this. I was talking about that Leeds night where I got really drunk. I played Riverside, Riverside, motherfucker.
I do remember that. Yeah, I do.
Just a little like I don't know why I played it, but it just felt right.
Well, it was on the memory stick, so you must have been.
I've got all sorts on there. I've got all sorts on there.
How many sort of tunes? If you're going to a set, right? If you're going to a set, you've got your memory stick there. Number one, how many memory sticks are you taking to a set? Are you taking any backups, or are you just going with the one and like trust faith?
I've got one. I've got two. One as a backup, and then I've got two. I've got four.
You've got four.
I don't know why.
Quick maths. Yeah, I've got one and another one, and then two of those backups. So.
I've got four. Yeah, three backups.
Sick.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's organised.
Back in the day, I used to have CDs.
Yes,
I used to take my CD.
The little plastic wallet.
Case. Yeah.
CD wallet. Absolutely. And then, just out of interest, how many tunes have we got on the? How many tunes have you got on the USB at a time? Like you said, if you were pulling from Riverside,
must be about. Some of my USBs aren't big enough, so they've got like select playlists. But I'd say like 2,500, maybe 3,000.
Fuck, that's way more than what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah.
Oh shit, no way. Oh, so you are literally like, oh, Jesus. I thought you were going to say like 200 or something like that when you started.
There's a lot of music because I've been organising it since Jack and House was a massive.
So 2,500 tracks that he's putting up to every rave with. So you are basically ready for you are sort of.
I could do
any set, baseline, UKG, tech house, like donk.
I could.
Anything.
I used to do tech house. In fact, this logo is a night in
Apex.
Newcastle, and that's that was like my first proper main room. Set doing a tech house set.
Absolutely.
Me and Yemi used to do all genres. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got no, like, I love tech house and techno. There's a little bit. I feel like there's maybe a little bit of I'm trying to think of my brain's just fucking not even beef. It's there's a little bit of tension. I'd say there's a little bit of antagonism, maybe a little bit of tension from my perspective, and looking at groups and looking at sort of artists and other bit and stuff like that. I would say in bass communities and bass line specifically, I would say that there's a little bit of sort of like sort of a little bit of tension and like just antipathy towards techno house and techno. I'd say less so with you garage, because sort of like the jump
Yeah,
between
I definitely think
UKG and sort of
like bassy stuff like UK bass and drum bass
mm,
versus actually no, maybe more so bass, more so
mm,
bass line, right? Versus techno is a thing. And I'll be honest, techno. I'm a music lover,
mm-hmm,
and I try and enjoy everything I listen to. And I'm waiting for someone to show me the way of techno because
yeah,
I just don't understand it yet.
really.
I don't understand it.
Oh mate, I love it. We the person. Well, um, we've had Bush Baby, Harry
Yeah,
Bushby, on the
yeah,
podcast before, and we were
yeah. He
actually chatting
loves it,
about
doesn't he?
his alias, his alias and his
Yeah,
transition
I
from.
love his stuff though, but I think that's just because I appreciate him as a.
Mm,
And I'm not saying all techno. Like I listen to some techno tunes and I love it, but
mm.
I need someone to really sit me down and explain to me why it's good, and then when I can get my when I can get my brain into it, then I can enjoy it. But I
Do you know what? I feel like if you need someone to explain,
struggle
need
with
someone
it.
to explain to you why it's good. I feel like it's not for you, maybe, mate. I feel like
No,
it's not for you. It has to come from the art, doesn't it? You don't,
my
you know.
ears don't prick up when I listen to it,
Right.
but
Okay. Fair
I
play.
don't listen to enough of it, so that's my
Yeah.
problem.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what it is. You haven't experienced enough of
Yeah,
it
yeah.
to be able
Yeah.
to
Next time I
to.
come on, I'll fucking have 4,000 tunes and
You will. You would have done a set at
1,000 of
Berghain.
them. Yeah.
It'll be full black attire all the time, wearing shades
Yeah,
constantly,
yeah, yeah,
and out doing a season in Berlin. He'll
yeah,
be out there,
yeah,
mate.
yeah,
He'll be
yeah.
out there. So we've had Isaac on the podcast before, Isaac Reader,
Mhm.
as as an interviewee. Obviously, his partner is I want to say partner. I don't think they're engaged, are they?
No, not yet.
Jasmine, right? So Jasmine is your manager.
Yeah.
What is the like? How do you know it's the right time to sort of have management? And what was it sort of? What is it sort of that makes you think like, right, I'm needing to do this now, or I'm needing to have this now. I sort of need to get a manager, or I would appreciate having a manager.
I didn't look for a manager. I was actually pretty like, oh, I can do this on my own.
Hmm.
I was like, I'm enjoying making music and uploading it to SoundCloud like for free download and
Yeah,
getting some bookings and stuff like that for playing for 150 pound or something.
yeah,
And Jasmine I think added me on Facebook and wanted to have a ring, and then she was just like, it basically said, "You're hopeless. You don't know anything about the music industry. You need someone to direct," which was true. Which it was true. It was completely true. And so
yeah,
like, that was it. Basically, that
yeah.
was it from there. And yeah,
So, because we've had some people on the podcast before as well talk about it, and they've also echoed that like don't necessarily look for a manager. A management will most likely look for
yeah,
you when you're at the right level, and when
100%.
you're
Yeah,
ready.
yeah.
And then sort of like from a I mean, you can be as open and honest as you want about this. So what does like a manager do for you? That so obviously like looking on you, if anybody that was to look at your socials, you see like I've got booking agent, manager, distribution. Now for people that aren't in the music industry or people that might not be well as where they might not know necessarily the differences between sort of like what a booking agent does versus what a manager does. Would you be able to sort of like just give a little bit of background or detail in your personal experience
It,
what the difference between a booking agent does and a manager does?
so I think like it kind of differs with people, but for me, Jasmine's sort of like the link to the agents. She'll get me the deal with the agents. In a way, sort of a career director
Mm-hmm.
are gonna release this at this time and then do this. Oh, I don't think you should take that show because of this.
Mm.
Good thing about Jasmine is emotional support. Sometimes, as a producer, as doing this job, is really easy to get inside your own head. Or
Yeah.
like having writer's block is actually really hard. And you think like, oh, I'm gonna fail. I'm never gonna be able to make a tune again. And yeah, having that emotional support is really important as well.
Do you know what? That's nice because well, just from personal experience and chatting to a couple of people before, there's some people that I'm aware of where their manager is not necessarily the emotional support there, and is more very, very, very business and money focused, and will sort of utilize artists and acts and stuff like that as an income, rather than as sort of like a human being. So it's nice that you've got that relationship with Jasmine where like you can it's not necessarily just business focused. There is sort of like that care there as well from like a mental health perspective, and from
100%.
like the other side as well, which is fantastic, man. Which is really, really, really great, and it's obviously nice and healthy to see that in the industry, and to see that just sort of like in general life, realistically. I'm going to ask you a question. You might want to answer it, you might not. Don't feel too nervous, and you haven't got to mention names. But if I was to ask you, what's the maddest thing you've seen backstage during your career and during your time producing and DJing and playing live, what would you say is?
I was speaking to Elliot Young, the photographer.
He was on there. He was the last interview that I did.
It's literally just a room full of guys in black t-shirts talking about Ableton and stuff like that, because it literally is that you just sat there with your drink talking about nerdy shit, and that's literally it. It's nice though. It is really nice speaking to other nerds about the thing that you're nerdy about.
Would you class yourself as a nerd?
Absolutely. The biggest nerd there is.
Is there anything that you might want to shatter the illusion? There's nothing wrong with being a nerd at all, but is there anything that you think being like, a nerd is I'm really cool. Into this, but people might not be aware of it type thing? Is there anything that you're really into that you're like, oh, people might not be aware of this, but I really like X or really like Z?
I love sci-fi so much.
Yeah?
I love space shit. I love physics and shit like that.
Okay.
And I love the Marvel.
Top films?
I love Marvel. Top films. Interstellar.
Like sci-fi films.
Interstellar and The Matrix. Are my two favourite films. And I love Arsenal Football Club. I'm a big Arsenal fan. Why are you laughing?
Why are you laughing? No reason. Someone's got to be, haven't they? Someone's got to be. It was good to know, because then if you've got fans, like if fans are coming to your show now, if anybody listens to this, you might now get, number one, free Arsenal memorabilia. Somebody might be giving you some signed frame from like any sort of sci-fi films. They might be giving you like, if now they know that you're interested in it. And so, like we said, it's middle of January now. What's going to be the next big event or the big step for Sammy Virji?
I'm sitting on so much music, so I think this year is going to be a massive year for releasing music. I've got a list here of.
He has, for anybody that's listening to
and
it.
That's like half of the tunes that are.
There's at least that's about 15 there. There's at least 15 tunes there on that list.
Yeah, and it's not going to be an album.
Yeah,
I think, but it's going to be worth as much as an album this year.
Just because I've seen it, like the list there physically in person. Are some of those working titles, or like how would you? Like,
oh no, yes,
I just so you know, I can't see the titles, but what I was going to ask is how do you sort of go around choosing the title of a track? Because you saw obviously a lot of stuff written down there, and some people might have like Project 1 or Project 2 or like working project type thing saved on their computer. I was interested to know what you've written down for some of the stuff.
One of them's like bumpy guitar boy. Like I'm not gonna call the tune that.
You've got it now. BOI. It's got to be Bumpy Guitar Boy.
I really struggle for tune names.
Yeah.
Like on that EP, one of the tunes was called Blue Roll, and I asked Yemi one day, like, I don't know what to call this tune. He was like, yeah, it sounds kind of rough, like when you're wiping your ass too hard. And he's like, why don't you call it Blue Roll? I was like, yeah, why not? So that's why.
Wait a minute.
That's why it's called Blue Roll.
Why blue? What am I not getting there?
Like the blue roll that's really rough.
Oh yeah.
Blue,
like in kitchens.
You
like industrial kitchens. Yeah.
Well, that's why it's called Blue Roll.
That tune is called Blue Roll because it's rough and. That's mad. That's another bit. There's been a
Yeah.
lot of Sammy Virji trivia on this episode. I'm gonna have to go through and rank it and rate it, but getting behind the doors, and I feel there'll be people that are listening that are big fans of you that will now see that tune in a different light. Sammy, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you this evening, mate. It's been great to hear about you.
Yeah.
Your roots into the industry, like I said, your family influences, hearing about the highs and the lows of playing out live at sets, hearing about sort of jumping between multi-genre, hearing about obviously your naming conventions as well, and hearing about sort of it's just I feel like there's a lot of Sammy Virji trivia on this episode that people will now be able to take away and go, you know what, I know a little bit more about him.
Oh, yeah, thank you for having me, mate.